It's time for Reason.
If you're going to run as a Republican, then you need to uphold Republican values. Less government, limited taxes, less regulation, understanding the duties of the government. These are things that are the platform of the Republican Party. They've been the platform of the Republican Party for a really long time, and now Republican legislators need to uphold that, respect it, and fight for it, rather than saying they will when they run for office and then turning around and doing something different.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. Right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. It's great to have you along. Good morning. Welcome in to a pre-Friday celebration. Can you believe this week has gone by way too fast, even after a holiday last week that I thought might make this week drag on a little bit? No, oh no, this week has been going way too fast. We've been having a heck of a lot of fun. We're getting ready for a really big event coming up this weekend, and we're just doing the thing on a daily basis. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Good morning to you. It's an honor to have you along today on a pre-Friday celebration. The Facebook Live feed is up and rolling. As you can leave a comment, ask a question, like it, share it, blast it all over social media, because that's the way we roll. If we don't, the algorithms of social media usually like to find some kind of way to attack us or do something to us and, at least ignore us and make other people ignore us as well. And we don't like that. So a lot of things happening yesterday as we try to talk about. A few things we didn't get to, we'll try and get to today. We should be able to. The big news, though, however, was, I'm sure that everybody's aware now, was the flag that was flying at Kansas University. We had on yesterday Victoria Snitzar. She's with the College Republican Federation for the state of Kansas. And we talked about the flag flying at KU. And the movement behind it, that was the art, quote unquote, of the desecration of the flag. And instead of even putting it in the art museum or in the art building or in the art department, they ended up putting it on the flagpole and flying it on campus. And it was not acceptable. I'm glad. And I have to say, I am so glad to hear so many Republicans, so many conservatives, so many patriots come out and say, yeah, you know what? This is not right. We're not in support of this. I know a lot of other people outside of our listener base, made phone calls to the university and tried to complain. But I know that we had an impact on that as well. I got at least 4 or 5 messages myself of individuals calling. I called myself, and it was really cool to see the response that came out of this. And eventually, last night, ladies and gentlemen, talk about winning, talk about succeeding, talking about doing really great things, they ended up taking it down. As of last night, the flag is down. We do not have to worry about it here. Now, I think we should do the same thing for Kansas City, because it is in Kansas City as well, but at least it's off of the university grounds at KU, to where Kansas City, you know what, that's more of a Missouri problem maybe, but I still don't like it. I still don't support it. I still don't agree with it, and if you want to make a phone call up there, you're more than welcome to as well. But the Kansas University has taken it down as of yesterday evening. Now, again, it's funny, with all the people that called, said that the chancellor and that the department had no idea about this. Now, after the show yesterday, I talked to a few other people who have been involved in this, some of the college Republicans up at KU, some of the individuals who are working on other campaigns around the state who are involved in this, who are trying to fight this. And they said, yeah, the university absolutely knew about it because they approved it, because I found out that it was not a prior standing flagpole, at least from what they had heard. Now, I can't verify that myself, but I had heard, as the rumor mill has it, is that it was a brand new flagpole that they built and put in place right there at the front of the building just for specifically this flag. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. But to me, it doesn't really matter. If it is a new flagpole, then that shows that we even went out of our way even more to do a little mini construction project in order to put up this flag, which is even more sickening. If it wasn't, and it was already a prior flagpole, then why would you go through the hassle of taking down the old flag and putting up the new flag that is a piece of art, quote unquote, that's really a desecration of the flag, in order for them to be so? Either way, the university knew about it. And that's the point that we really have to understand, is they say, I'm going to have to look into this a little bit more. I'm not quite sure. I don't know what's going on. We didn't do anything like this. And then we come to find out that you had to have known. The university had to have known. Now, we did hear from some of the gubernatorial candidates in the state as Chris Kobach came out with a vicious attack on this, pretty much saying what we said on the air as of yesterday. Governor Jeff Collier saying the same thing, extremely upset, asking for the removal of, and by yesterday afternoon, they ended up removing that flag, which is good because it's the 12th. They wanted to hang on to this flag until the end of the month, until July 31st, and it didn't happen. It's down. It's over. We put the flag up, and they say that they're going to be putting it into a art museum, and whether the flag is actually going to be displayed at the museum or not, time will tell, and they're not quite sure yet, but as of right now, the flag is down, and we do not have to worry about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. Again, the whole grassroots campaign, the whole grassroots movement, you and I saying this isn't right, we don't agree with this, we don't like this, we're going to change it. We did it. That's you and I. We took it down. And, of course, the Wichita Eagle, of course, posted it on social media. Everybody all up in arms about it. They can't stand the fact that we ended up taking this down. And I was looking through the comments there. Angry, hateful, bitter remarks. I'm starting to notice a trend as well, by the way. There are, and I guess it's been a trend that I knew about. I just never like to accept because I'm a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I'm a very positive kind of person. I'm a very optimistic kind of person. But there are some very angry, hateful, bitter people on social media. Holy cow. And they troll, and they leave snide comments, and they try and be the online bullies, and it is insane where they go. I mean, the Wichita Eagle posted the story saying that the flag was removed after Republicans, they say Republicans, the Topeka Capital Journal came out as well, kind of, Tim Carpenter, the opinion writer at the Topeka Capital Journal, ended up writing the piece and making it more of an opinion slant of, oh, I can't believe Republicans actually did this. Why would Republicans want to remove art? Yeah. They hate art. Oh, they hate that. That's so terrible. Criticism from a cluster of Kansas Republican political candidates Wednesday prompted University of Kansas officials to order the removal of a U.S. flag embellished with an artistic representation of the nation's political polarization that had been flying on campus since July 5th. Well, according to the website, it was actually July 3rd before Independence Day. Regardless, doesn't really matter. Governor Jeff Collier and Secretary of State Chris Kobach, who are campaigning for the Republican nomination for governor, along with Steve Watkins, we've had him on the show a few times, U.S. military veteran seeking the GOP congressional nomination for the 2nd Congressional District, expressed dismay at KU's participation in a traveling flag exhibition that included the work of a German-born artist, Josephine Maxieper. I would like to have seen other candidates make a comment on this as well. They didn't, and that's okay. Maybe they did. Maybe just it didn't get in the media or anything. But those were the two, Chris Kobach and Governor Jeff Collier, those were the two that really made a very loud statement about this flag. And I give both of them very much credit for that. I saw Governor Collier, he did take a picture of the American flags flying over the state capitol and where he's working and say, look, this is how we properly fly the flag. And that, to me, is a positive reinforcement. That, to me, is a great step. I love it. Because we're going to turn it around and say, you're wrong. We're going to take down that flag because it's a desecration of the American flag code. And we're going to, and this is how the flag should actually look in a positive way. And the media... And, of course, these are the criticism from a cluster of Republican candidates. They're only doing it because they're on the campaign trail. They don't really care. And then you see the comments on the Wichita Eagle on social media from the story. To stake this and shove your flag code and da-da-da-da-da-da. And these are the comments that are on there because they don't care. Because they're angry, bitter, hateful individuals. Throughout the show today, I may read some of the posts, by the way, that have been posting on the rally page on Facebook as well, with individuals trying to sound like they're quote-unquote supporters, but being sarcastic at the same time, and very hateful, bitter, racist, angry comments, which again proves only one thing, of the fact that the hate is on that side and not on this side. And I don't like to divide in that sense, but ideologically, yeah. There's a big division ideologically between the angry, bitter, hateful comments on one side, the trolls, and then this side where we're actually trying to promote something. There's a vast difference there. There's a really big difference. And those sitting on the fence, sitting on the border, sitting in between, in the middle of this tug of war, seeing everything go back and forth between the traditionalist conservatives and the radical conservatives, and then the fringe Democrats and the progressive liberals and yada, yada. And the ones that are sitting in the middle watching this tug of war, they're shaking their head. They're shaking their head. And one of these days, The light bulb's going to come on for many of them and say, you know what, I may not associate with either one, but one side is very, very bitter and hateful. The other side actually has a plan. Now, they have a hard time implementing that plan, but they have a plan. They talk good. They talk positive. They talk about what needs to be done, not what we want to do because we don't like the opposition. There's a vast difference in ideological differences between those two. And that's what we have to show. That's what we have to do. Here's what the American flag looks like. Here's the flag code. Let's respect that. No, we don't want to respect that. To heck with the American flag. To heck with the flag code. If you're sitting in the middle, what's that sound like to you between the two? 316-721-8255. I give very much kudos to Governor Jeff Collier, to Secretary of State Chris Kobach for making this an issue, to reaching out to the university. All of you that actually made phone calls to that and that was very upset about that issue yesterday, thank you. We did it. We did it. Another success under our belt. Another way. The campaign rally that we're doing, of course, is called Making America Great Again, not Make America Great Again, because that was the campaign with Donald Trump, was Make America Great Again, that we have to do it. Guess what? Now we're doing it. We're in the process of, which is why we're making America great again. There's a big difference, again, and we're making it happen. We're doing it. We're being the activists. We're being the constituents. We're being the awesome, engaged citizen the way we need to be. And we just had another victory as of yesterday. 18 minutes past the hour. We have a heck of a lot to get to today. I do want to talk about the gubernatorial debate that happened 2 days ago with the Republicans out in Garden City. There was another one from the Democrats last night, and we'll try and touch on that one a little bit too. I do want to touch on the tariff debate as the Democrats jumping on Republicans coming up with plans to respond to the tariffs coming from the Trump administration, good, bad, or indifferent. We'll talk about those, plus some educational information that came out as well. And of course, talking to you, we have just about finalized the speaking lineup for the rally on Saturday. It's all lined up. It's all official. It's all confirmed, and we'll be finalizing that today. There's one other speaker that really wants to make it, but is about a 50-50 chance of whether they can or not with prior engagements. They really want to, so I'm holding out. I'm not including them on the official press release, and that would be Secretary of State Chris Kobach. But if there's any chance that he's going to be able to make it, then they're going to, and I know a lot of people from his campaign and from his staff are going to be there at least at the rally to have a representation, which is cool and great and hunky-dory, so we appreciate that very much. But whether he's going to be able to make it and talk from the Secretary of State position or not quite sure. I'm not including him on the press release, but there may be an opportunity for him to be there last minute. And if so, then we get an extra little surprise and a little kudos there. So other than that, it's all confirmed, and we'll be sharing that information here in a little bit as well. 19 minutes past the hour. Happy Thursday morning to you. We got a pre-Friday celebration rocking and rolling right here on The Voice of Reason.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
5 minutes past the hour. Welcome into The Voice of Reason. Good Thursday morning to you. It's been a heck of a week, heck and a half, really. And we got a lot more to get to today. Boy, it's going to be a fun one. Looking forward to it. Coming up on the show today, we're going to be having Hilary Schardon. She's with Canvas by Instructure, talking about during summertime the loss of education children go through and what parents can do to help when it comes to the educational debate on how they can keep their children up and active and engaged when it comes educational-wise throughout the summer before classes begin again in the fall in a few months. So we'll talk with her coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Looking forward to that interview. Let's go to the phones. Your phone calls as well are always welcome. We love hearing from you. 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, it's Deacon.
Deacon, what's happening, sir?
Hey, brother, I just had to call in and say I love interactive politics.
Yes. I tell you what, it's been happening frequently lately. I kind of dig it.
I feel really good about the phone calls I made yesterday, and I'm really glad people got involved and said, you know what, we're not going to let our national symbol, the one thing that's recognized around the world, that is America, be defaced, degraded, and put on display in our country. we've got enough of that crap going on in other countries.
Exactly. And I mean, people always try and push the envelope. I get it. And to some degree, I respect that because we always want to try and push the envelope to some degree. But at the same time, as I mentioned yesterday, maybe you have kind of a different line that you draw. But to me, First Amendment and artistic view and pushing that envelope ends when you begin to deface the symbolism of the country. I mean, not necessarily the country itself. You can criticize the government all you want. Obviously, we have people that criticize the nation as a whole. Anyways, we have people that criticize half the population and call us deplorables and that sort of thing. But when you start defacing the value of the symbol of what we're not what we are, but what we're supposed to represent, I have a very big problem with that because you're literally saying I have the right to protest, and what's giving me that right to protest, I'm going to trash. So I'm literally going to bite the hand that feeds me.
That's where, I know you've said it before, but those people who burn the flag and stomp on the flag and all that garbage, that doesn't make any sense. Go do that in another country, like go do that in North Korea, one of those places that the socialists that they love so much. Go try defacing their flag in public and see how that works out for you.
Yeah. I mean, look at what happened in North Korea when somebody tried to take the flag of the North Koreans or tried to say something out of line. I mean, you get thrown in prison, you get thrown into the camps that they have, and you probably are never seen again.
Yeah. And, I will fight for anyone's right to say anything.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I like it or if I agree with it. I believe in this country. I believe in the Constitution. And the First Amendment says that, you have the right to say whatever you want as long as you are not infringing on the rights of others. And you know what? I will stand up right beside somebody, even if I don't agree with what they're saying, if somebody's trying to stop them from saying it.
Here's one I think you'll enjoy, Deacon. This was on, we've been getting comments on the Rally Facebook page as we've been trying to promote this, and individuals who have been wanting to protest this rally, they've been showing up and just making comments on the Rally page, trying to make some really terrible, horrible, derogatory remarks. Here's the last one that I got as of last night. I heard David Duke is replacing one of your speakers. What time is he speaking, and do you need someone to pick up his robes and hood from the dry cleaners that day?
No, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of Democrats there.
You don't think so? Let's see. There you go. I mean, this is the remarks. And I mean, I've been deleting. I've been trying to take some pictures of some of this so I can hold them on his records. But I mean, this is what we go through. This is the fight that we have never ending every single day when it comes to activism, when it becomes engagement. And when we stand up for ourselves, then they begin to get a little angry about that. I don't think they're used to it.
I was telling one of my coworkers, hey man, there's this rally coming up on Saturday, and he goes, hey, don't get in a fight. Why would I get in a fight? I'm not going there to cause problems. I'm going there to support legal immigration and law enforcement. Come on, that's not anything in my book that's going, hey, I'm going looking for a fight.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's been actually really tough trying to decipher and trying to let everybody know that this is not something to try and cause an issue, but it show a positive support. I don't think people are comfortable with that because they're not used to it. Everything that when they hear a protest or a rally, they think that it's going to be one of those out in the streets shutting it down and causing an issue, and that's not what we're doing there. So
not at all, brother. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you.
Hey, it's going to be a good time. Deacon, I appreciate it very much. That's us. We're setting the trend on what's supposed to be right and wrong, because back in the day, this used to be a normal thing, as a peaceful thing. Now it's not, and people just aren't used to that for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Andy never shies away from a fight.
Just you try it.
Oh, I'll try it.
Just you try it.
You'll feel it when I try it.
I'd like to see you have at it.
Would you now?
And now's your chance to jump in the ring.
Are you insane?
Give Andy a call at 316-721-8255. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, welcome back into the Voice of Reason. Happy Thursday morning to you. It is a wonderful time to have you along. trying to wake you up the right way. Interpret that how you'd like to do so. Starting your morning off better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink, because that's the way we roll. That's the kind of fun that we like to have. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. I don't know if you're aware or not, but Vice President Mike Pence was in Kansas City as of yesterday and ended up talking to a crowd about agriculture, saying that farmers have a special place in his heart and ways that he can begin to fight and continue to fight for farmers in the Mid-America region. And we've talked about it many times before. Agriculture is in the tank right now. Farmers are struggling very much so. The tariffs probably not helping immediately, but I think it's going to have a long-term effect that's going to be in the positive for us very, very soon. Pence promised passage of a farm bill that is making its way through Congress, praised the Kansas congressional delegation for its support of President Donald Trump, and presented a litany of accomplishments from the administration. Quote, I think there's only one way you can sum up the last year and a half. It's been a year and a half of actions, a year and a half of results. It's been a year and a half of promises made and promises kept. Inside the ballroom, Pence with a minute-long ovation, then shouted down a pair of hecklers. Of course, they're always there. I don't know, why would you want to go and heckle? I really don't. That's like kind of doing the counter-protest to what we had thought of doing last week, and I was like, there's not worth it. There's no point. What does it accomplish? Really. I was in college, and the speakers that we would have, of course, were just like this. I mean, they're always labeled as bigoted, racist, yada, 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 whatever. They hate them. But we brought the speakers, and then there would always be a protest on whoever we brought. Let me tell you something. The Democrats, the college Democrats at the university that I went to, they brought in Seth MacFarlane, which I enjoy Seth MacFarlane. He's the writer of Family Guy and American Dad and a few other shows, and I think he's very funny. He did campaign, by the way, in 2016 for Bernie Sanders, saying, if you remember the clip, can't we just admit that we just need a little bit of democratic socialism? And that was his big comment, and everybody loved it. He loves his nice little progressive socialist mentality, and he's wrong. But you know what? I'm not going to go protest him. I'm not going to go out there and say, Seth MacFarlane, I hate your views. I'm never going to watch your show again. I enjoy his show. I'm not necessarily going to go out and support financially and support the show because I don't agree with him. But at the same time, you know, whatever. I'm not going to go out just because he comes to a college university and protest him. They also brought, by the way, Bill Ayers. If you remember, Bill Ayers, the domestic terrorist from Weather Underground. Oh, yes. The college Democrats bringing in a domestic terrorist to come and speak on campus. And again, us as the college Republicans, we never went to protest. We never did. But they had some hecklers out there in Kansas City yesterday for Vice President Mike Pence. And talking about, of course, they chanted build the wall. They chanted everything they need to with a usual Make America Great Again rally. And the Vice President Mike Pence, farmers have done poorly for 15 years. Other countries' trade barriers and tariffs have been destroying their business. I will open things up better than ever before, but it can't go too quickly. I am fighting for a level playing field for our farmers, and we will win. And that's what we're all about. Always thinking about the farmers. As Pence spoke, said Donald Trump as well. I'm in Brussels, but always thinking about our farmers. Soybeans fell 50% from 2012 to my election. Farmers have done poorly for the last 15 years. Our country and trade barriers have been destroying their business. I'll open things up. That's the way we need to do this. Now, the trade barriers, the tariffs that have been placed on here, I know have been getting a lot of criticism, even from conservatives, and I understand it. I really, really do. The government putting on tariffs, making things more expensive to be able to import and be able to export. The other countries trying to retaliate by putting tariffs on us and doing the same thing. And it's just this trade war that's going on. And some say, don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. But let me tell you something. Sometimes the only way to make a positive difference is to rock the boat. What are we doing with this rally on Saturday? There hasn't been really a whole lot of the positive reinforcement rallies like this that are very positive, not out there to cause an issue, not out there to cause a scene, but just to show our support of, and people don't know how to handle that. Rocking the boat. You got to do that sometimes. When you rock the boat when it comes to tariffs and negotiation and trade, you're showing them strength. You're showing them that we are tougher than you. Do you remember? Does anybody remember the Cold War? Anybody out there remember what was going on with the Cold War with capitalism versus Soviet Union and communism and our moon race or our space race and building things and building up arsenals, getting ready for a war that could start at any time and building and building and building and building. And guess what? Ronald Reagan was very smart. We were very smart at that time. Building and building and building and building creates jobs for us, which means we created revenue, which means we did really great things. Soviet Union, under a communist nation, they tanked. They went bankrupt. They broke. They fell apart. They couldn't handle it. That's the way that you defeat them. You defeat them at their own game. You push and you push and you rock that boat until they finally collapse. When you go through these negotiations and trade wars, do I like higher tariffs? Of course not. Nobody likes higher tariffs. Nobody likes higher prices for goods because we're trying to trade with other nations. But you know what you do? You raise it, and they raise it, and you raise it, and they raise it, and you raise it, until at some point they say, you know what, we can't survive here because we're paying up the wazoo in order to get your resources for us to be able to survive. How many nations in the world use our resources as a dependency of what they have to live on? Their livelihoods, the food that they eat, the cars that they drive, the clothes that they wear, when we're exporting those things to them. We're doing it because we like the cheaper products. We're doing it for our convenience and our efficiency. They're doing it for survivability. There's a difference between those two situations, is there not? When we're doing it because, hey, you know what, we want to get things for cheap and we want to keep the consumer prices down for our people, as opposed to over there saying, we're not going to be able to eat unless we actually get your product. You put a little stress on them. And then guess what? The negotiation trades and changes. They come to the table and they say, okay, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. And let's renegotiate. Okay, cool. Let's do it. It'll come back down. Prices will go back up. The farmers will be able to succeed. We'll be able to do very good things. This is the kind of debate that we have to have within the Republican Party. Now, candidates, of course, in the last couple of debates for the gubernatorial race have been making these types of comments going back and forth. China's a huge market for these products. For any increase in the cost to do business with China will be borne by Kansas farmers and ranchers, according to Governor Jeff Collier. I support President Trump's efforts to secure more fair trading agreements. Kansas Secretary of State had made comments as well, saying that if his own country is shooting him in the back, then we have a problem. When it comes to many Republicans even turning their backs on President Donald Trump with his trade negotiations, we need to support him. He knows what he's doing. He's a business guy. He knows how to make the profit in the end. He knows how to make a good deal, which is why many individuals elected him into office, to be the outsider, to shake things up, to not be afraid of standing up and rocking the boat a little bit, and then be able to negotiate trade deals. Those are good things. Let's do it. Let's support it. Let's embrace it. And then let's see them drop back down after the war is over, after they finally crumbled on the other side and realize that they need us more than we need them. That is a good situation to be in, is it not? 316-721-8255. Now, the Democrats, on the other hand, when they had their panel discussions and their debates, they're seeing this as the Achilles heel for Republicans. They're seeing this as, oh, look at this, the Republicans changing their tone when it comes to tariffs, changing their tone, and they're harming the farmers, and they're harming the consumer, and they're raising the prices, and they're doing all these terrible things. Look at what the Republicans are doing. And they're not just doing it in the gubernatorial race, by the way. This is going to be the argument going into the midterm elections for many state legislative races when it comes to trade for the state of Kansas. This is going to be the talking point for many Democrats when it comes to the congressional races across the nation, even here in Kansas. I can't believe you supported those tariffs. I can't believe you supported Donald Trump. I can't believe you supported these types of this is terrible. How could you do such a thing? And the people are struggling and suffering because of it, which isn't true. Does it put a little stress on us? Sure, it does. Temporarily, again. And no, we're not the party of trade and we're the party of trade. We're not the party of tariffs. We're not the party of excessive force. We're not the party of trying to squeeze every little bit out. We are the party, though, of hardline negotiations. We are the party of standing firm. We are the party of principle where we're going to get the best deal. We're going to be the party, though, and the ideology of putting ourselves first for once as a nation and being able to actually benefit from something rather than selling the milk and giving away the cow. I don't know if you saw or not, but this morning I saw just the last little bit of the speech. President Donald Trump, right before the show started, was in Brussels, in Belgium there, and he had made an unexpected visit to NATO and was visiting NATO, and he was there taking some Q&A questions, and I didn't hear what the question was, but of course they were going after President Trump for wanting to start wars and wanting to be involved internationally and what we're doing with different conflicts around the world. And I'm assuming that's what the question was, because all I heard was President Trump say was that we need to have some of the best equipment in the world, the best military technology in the world. We need to have the strongest weapons in the world, and hopefully we never have to use it because we're all about peace. And back in the day, way back when, we used to, everybody in the nation, as kind of a rallying cry for Republicans and Democrats alike, used to believe in that mentality. We used to support that. When FDR came out and said that we need to hold the big stick, the sleeping giant, where we don't do anything, but we wait for them to try it with us, and then they have woken a sleeping beast, and we come out and we completely demolish them. That's what we have to use that mentality when it comes to trade deficits, when it comes to trade wars, and when it comes to tariffs. We have the power. We have the strength. We do not have to cower. We do not have to apologize. We can actually do what we need to do to benefit us. And if some don't see it, then fine, they don't see it. But we do. So let's embrace it and support it. Republicans, we have a great opportunity to show the greatness of what's to come as we are making America great again. We're not going to make America great again because we're already doing it. We're making America great again. And we have to continue to do so without the obstructionists trying to block us every which way. 47 minutes past the hour. We'll take a break, get your phone calls when we come back. Wrapping up hour number 1. This is The Voice of Reason here on KQAM.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
8 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up hour number 1. It goes by way too fast. We just have too much fun. It goes by fast. I'm just, man, we need some more time. I think we need a 5-hour program. What do you think? Yeah, probably not. Speaking of farmers, by the way, yeah, that one might get a little excessive there. People are like, oh my gosh, Andy, shut up! Yeah. Speaking of farmers, it is, I mean, as we talk about these trade deals, and the farmers showing up to the rally yesterday with Vice President Mike Pence that was in Kansas City. We've heard President Trump talk about farmers quite a bit. Most of our congressional delegation on the Senate and the congressional side, the House side, they all obviously are in support of the farmers doing what we can. And we have a big influence in the farming community at the federal level, which is a good thing. But again, we've been a little concerned when it comes to the price of commodities and how farmers are going to survive and the trade and the tariffs and that sort of thing. And Craig Mead over at the I love the fact that we actually have accessibility to talk about these sorts of things with the Mid-America Ag Network. Craig Mead swinging in. I had to get you in here because, obviously the trade deals have been a really big talking point as of lately. And what's the farmer's mindset with all of this?
I think the farmers, I can't speak for every farmer, obviously, because I don't know, but I think the farmers understand that there needs to be some change with the trade deficits. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes they question how we're going about this.
How to do it.
China keeps ratcheting up tariffs on United States products. We're up around 60% now on things like soybeans and pork. And so that's a hefty price. That's a hefty tariff. So that's hurting things. And then, you add farmers have to deal with the weather so intently, too. And wheat harvest wasn't great this year in a lot of places. And so there's a lot of things working against the farmers right now. And there's there's a good deal of concern.
Here's the problem that I have, and it's the ongoing battle, because being a conservative, being a smaller government individual, we've heard a lot of individuals say that, we don't need necessarily as many subsidies or government programs for farmers and that sort of deal. The problem is that farming and agriculture is so non-private sector that we talk about a small business, we talk about a small farm and a mom and pop farm where they own a few hundred acres sort of thing, and it's kind of that small business, but at the same time, none of it is necessarily in their control. When it comes to the weather, when it comes to the price of the product they're actually selling, they don't get to set any of that. They're just going about the business and hoping it works out in the end. Yeah. And with something like that, you're really taking a gamble every single year.
No, absolutely, and that's one of the things that makes it difficult in agriculture is you not only deal with the weather. We had so many issues with the wheat harvest this year with the growing season, not necessarily the harvest itself, but that impacted the crop. And then when you see things going on over in China that impact prices here in the United States, it's kind of tough, and those are those things. Farmers are used to not being able to do anything about the weather except wait and see what happens. And then when something like this comes up with these tariffs, it's just another real tough situation where their hands are tied. There's nothing they can do. There's no real thing they can do outside of let their representatives and senators know their
can.
feeling and let them know what's going on out on the farm. So it's a real tough situation.
I used the example in the last segment about like the Cold War, to where, I mean, capitalism versus communism. We built, we armed up,
Right.
we did everything we did. Eventually, we strained them to the point to where they collapsed and they fell, which is the way that these types of wars work. In a trade war like this, that's the example that I'm using, that I think that Donald Trump is using that approach. We raise a tariff, they raise one. We raise one, they raise one, until the point to where we're doing the trade with them for our luxury and convenience, not necessarily because we need to survive on the food they send us or the clothes they make, sort of thing. They are doing it in many cases, maybe not China, but some of the other nations are doing it for, if they don't trade with the U.S. and some of the other nations, they don't have food in their country, and eventually they will crumble, and they're going to come back to the table and make a better deal with us. And that's the stress I think Trump's trying to put on them for the long run to make it a better opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm not as good at politics as you are, certainly.
I mean, it's the game we had to play.
Yeah, exactly. But I think and I think one of the things that that President Trump is counting on is that China really, in one way, needs us more than we need them. We can provide our own. There's a number of sources that have come from China that we can do ourselves.
Sure.
And they rely pretty heavily on us for a lot of food. So I think that's kind of where he's going with that. And again, I'm not going to speculate on whether it's right or wrong, but I think I think what he wants to do is kind of balance the trade deficit. I mean, we import, I don't remember exact figures, like $600 billion worth of stuff from China,
sure,
and yet they take only X amount from us, and it's not near the same.
Sure.
And I think trying to balance that, I think, is not a bad idea, obviously. Unfortunately, the food part of it, that's going to be tough. It's tough for our farmers, and then when their civilians over there don't have access to food like they would like to have, then
sure,
that makes things tough. And I think maybe President Trump's kind of relying on a little bit of that.
Exactly.
A little bit of pressure
of
from civilians over there. Yeah. So.
Sure. And I think, again, that leverage is going to do us a favor. It may be tough a little bit as they try and negotiate. And you back the vicious dog into the corner, they're going to bark and they're going to bite and they're going to go after you. And that's really what they're doing. But eventually they're going to come back to the table, and we're not going to see we're going to have a fair and balanced trade to where it's not going to be a deficit. We're going to see benefits from it, and I think in the long run, we're going to see the benefit from for farmers as well.
Right, we would hope so. And
that's the goal, at least.
That's the goal. The American farmer is the most efficient and produces more food than any place else in the world. And so, we've got some things working in our favor. Hopefully, we'll be able to get this all going in the right direction.
Making it happen, Craig Mead, Mid-America Ag Network. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
Always a good time. Wrapping up hour number 1. Lots more to get to today. We have some fun conversations to be had. This is The Voice of Reason, hour number 2, right around the corner.
It's time for Reason.
If you're going to run as a Republican, then you need to uphold Republican values. Less government, limited taxes, less regulation, understanding the duties of the government. These are things that are the platform of the Republican Party. They've been the platform of the Republican Party for a really long time, and now Republican legislators need to uphold that, respect it, and fight for it, rather than saying they will when they run for office and then turning around and doing something different.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. It is great to have you along. Happy Thursday. It is a pre-Friday celebration. That's the way we roll, having more fun than what we should be on a regular basis. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. It is open lines to you this hour on whatever you want to talk about. We do have a lot to get to and a lot to discuss, but you are more than welcome to chime in any way that you'd like to do so. Also, the Facebook Live feed is up and rolling, facebook.com/1480 KQAM. Activism, engagement, and excitement, involvement. It's the way we roll. That's what we do. As we mentioned last hour, the flag has been removed from the Kansas University grounds. The artistic quote-unquote piece where they tried to show the division in the nation by dividing the nation by making a flag that was defaced and then putting it up on a flagpole to try and use that as a piece of art. That is now gone. Secretary of State Chris Kobach, Governor Jeff Collier, both made a very big deal about this on the campaign trails yesterday. We appreciate that very much so. We had a lot of people call into the chancellor's office complaining about that, and by yesterday afternoon, it is done, it is official, and that flag has been removed, and we need to be proud about that. And I have to say, the activism is fantastic to watch. Even on the left side of the aisle, I do respect it. Last week they had the protest here in Wichita. I don't agree with it. I don't like their tactics. I don't like their vision. I don't like their idea, but they're active and they're engaged. I respect that. There's a difference between, look, and this is again why Donald Trump gets so much criticism about Vladimir Putin. There's a difference between liking and supporting and respecting. You respect them because they express their freedom of speech. You respect them because they are on the polar opposite, but at the same time, they're engaged. They may be wrong, but they're engaged. And we'd like that reciprocated same respect on the other side of the aisle. Okay, you know what? We don't agree with you, but we respect you. Donald Trump, when he talks about Russia, doesn't mean that he likes him, doesn't mean that he's partners with them. He respects him as a leader. As a strong leader, meaning that if you don't respect them, then they walk all over you. You respect strong individuals. You respect strong leaders and strong nations. And if you don't, then you're going to be in a world of hurt when they begin to take advantage of you because you're not prepared for the force and for the strength that they may potentially have. That's the difference between having respect and showing support for an individual. But regardless of all that, activism is what it's all about. We have our rally coming up on Saturday. We've been talking about it. I'll continue to talk about it. But outside of that as well, we made phone calls to Kansas University yesterday to remove that flag, and guess what happened? It went down. I got a letter yesterday in the mail, and I absolutely love it when people email me, when they shoot me a private message on Facebook, when they send me letters. I get written letters once in a while in the mail here at the studio, and I get emails quite a bit from listeners, and I absolutely love it and appreciate it very much. I got a letter yesterday, an actual card, just saying thank you for the show and that they appreciate it very much, and they wanted to, they asked me a couple of issues. So I want to direct it, and I want to answer them. Because, again, I appreciate this and the fact that people are engaged. They're not only listening, but they're engaged. They want to solve certain issues. They have everybody's got their particular issue that they want to address and want to talk about and want to decide on, which is great. And there's a couple that said, hey, do you have a comment on these? And one of them was texting and driving, and wrote a letter about statistics show that texting while driving has become the problem for all of America. Different issues about texting and driving, getting in a car accident sort of thing. And it should be kind of an easy answer, but there's a little bit of an explanation to it. As you know, when we talk about something like texting and driving, does it fall into the same category as not wearing a helmet when you're riding a motorcycle? Does it fall into the same category as not putting your seatbelt on when you drive in the vehicle? Is it falling into the same category as having a distraction in the vehicle, like a numerous amount of children that are fighting in the back seat, or a very attractive wife or husband that's sitting next to you that, you just kind of have to take a peek at every once in a while? Is there these distractions in the vehicle? And it's kind of an interesting point because as a limited government, low government, less regulation type of individual, the quick answer would be, you know what, do whatever you want to. And if you harm yourself, then that's your own damn fault sort of thing. Because I don't like laws that tell you that you can't smoke. I don't like laws that tell you that you have to wear a seatbelt. I don't like laws telling you that you have to wear a helmet when you're driving a motorcycle. I don't like those laws. If you don't wear a helmet when you're driving a motorcycle and you get into an accident, then whose fault is that? Because you didn't prepare for what could potentially happen. Do you need a law telling you that? No. Should you? Duh. Yes, you should. When you're wearing your seatbelt. Should you have a law? Should we be paying law enforcement taxpayer money to go around and enforce people to say, you weren't wearing a seatbelt, ticket? Revenue for the city, revenue for the county, revenue for the state because we found you not wearing a seatbelt, so therefore we're going to benefit from it while we tell you how to live your life. I don't like those types of laws. I think that we should be able to decide what we want to do, and if we want to wear the seatbelt, all the power to us. If you end up getting in an accident and you fly through the windshield, then that's your own problem. That's your own issue. And by the way, if you do that as well, then we're not going to cover your medical bill because of the life-threatening situation you're in the hospital and all the medical treatments that go along with it because that was your own fault. So we're not going to subsidize that as taxpayers. And that needs to go into this as well because healthcare is a big part of that too. If you smoke and you choose to smoke, and there's the big label on there that says don't smoke because you might get lung cancer, and you end up getting lung cancer, and you don't have health insurance, is it our duty to subsidize your health care bill because you ended up smoking? See, even the big argument, and I don't want to go down this road too terribly much, but when it comes to like health care itself and the whole universal health care thing and everybody being able to chime in and pay and everybody needs coverage and everybody has this right to health care, which is not true in any way, shape, or form, but this is the argument that they use. At what point are you just getting a write-off for the bad life decisions that you're making health-wise and that we have to cover because you're sick all the time? If you're sitting at home not working, eating M&Ms all the time, and you end up getting diabetes and you get sick, then do we have to cover that medical bill? We shouldn't, but we do. Or at least they want to under a universal healthcare system. And that is what we have to deal with. Now, texting and driving is a little bit different issue. Texting and driving, you're openly and willingly, in my opinion, causing an opportunity to where you're not only harming yourself, but anybody in the vehicle intentionally. If you're driving and you're not wearing the seatbelt, but the person in the passenger seat is, then they're going to survive and you're not, sort of thing. Or you have a less likely chance of surviving. Texting and driving, you're causing the issue. No, I don't believe in texting and driving in any way, shape, or form. That's dumb. How do we regulate it? I don't know, because I don't think law enforcement is going to be able to tell whether you're texting when you're driving, whether you're talking on the phone while you're driving, or whether you're trying to get GPS directions to where you're driving to, and the cops are just going to see a phone in your hand and pull you over and write you a ticket. And that's the part that I don't like about this. How we regulate it, I don't know. So I appreciate the insight. I appreciate the question and the information, and of course with the card that came with it and your thoughts on this, or at least asking me what my thoughts are on this. When texting and driving, it is a very tricky situation to be in because I don't know how to regulate it. I don't like law enforcement needing to have to worry about that. We have crime going on. We have shootings going on. We have drugs. We have human trafficking. We have really ridiculous things that we need to be attacking and then worrying about who's 5 miles an hour over the speed limit and who's texting and driving. Or who's wearing a seatbelt. It's a very tricky situation to be in. Now, the other issue that was brought up to my attention as well, ask me and I'll answer it. Sure. Bicycle owners and riders. As you know, I'm not the biggest fan of actually putting the bike paths onto the road. And again, let me just vent for a second. The last couple of days, I've been driving around the community a little bit more lately. In the evenings when I get off work and trying to look at things and scope things out and look at the yard signs for political campaigns and who's being supportive and who's not. And there are numerous amount of people that have been riding their bicycles on the highway. And let me tell you something, to me, I know it. This is one of the biggest pet peeves that I have. One of the biggest annoyances that I have. Riding your bicycle on the roadway. I don't like that. You're not a motorized vehicle. You go 10th of the speed as a car. And let me tell you something. If you get into a little fender bender with the car, I wonder which side's going to win. Drive or ride your bike on the sidewalk. And if there is no sidewalk, then ride on the curb. That's the way I feel. Andy, there's a law. You can't be riding your bike on the sidewalk. Then we need to change that law. I'm sorry. It is absolutely ridiculous. Riding your bicycle right in the middle of the road or on the road to where you're obstructing traffic. Traffic goes faster with cars, not with bicycles, and I don't know why we need to be slowing down because of that's my pet peeve. That's my rant. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm sorry. But the other question that was brought up with this letter that was sent to me was bicycle riders, and here and the idea that came out was what do you believe of this? Where they pay a plate and they license their bicycle in order to ride on the bikes, and that helps create the funding in order to get the bike lane on the road. What do you think of that? And again, not a big fan of it. I don't like that. I can see the concept. I think it's a good opportunity to some degree, but if we don't have enough bicyclists that are actually paying this license, then we may not have enough to actually make the bike lane, and then what do? Do you subsidize the rest of it through the rest of our taxpayer money? What was it, a year ago, 2 years ago? City of Wichita was talking about $350,000 to put more bike lanes into the downtown area. No! Why would we subsidize something like that? Why would we do that? And by the way, when you're driving and you got to make a right turn, what do? You got to cross the bike lane. How is that supposed to be safe for the bicyclists if they're riding right along? How many motorcycle accidents do we have? Now imagine the same thing with bicycles and how bad that's going to get. I don't like it. Just put them on the sidewalk, let them ride on the sidewalk, and then they can duel it out with the walkers. People walking their dogs, people walking by themselves, duel it out on there, but at least one of them is going to be less inflicted with an injury with a bicyclist and a pedestrian than they are with a bicyclist and a car. I'm just saying. I mean, it's an idea to start licensing, and maybe we do. Hey, if you want to ride your bike, then you got to put a license plate on your bike, and we're going to charge you for that, get a little revenue from that, and then we'll protect you a little bit, I guess. But no, there's just not enough. Unless you see half the population of Wichita actually wanting to ride their bike in the summertime to work, then I don't think it's worth it. I really don't think it's worth it. 316-721-8255. That's my ranting session. These were the questions that were brought up to me in a letter that was sent to the station. I appreciate that very much. I love the fact that people reach out, and because you sent it, I wanted to respond to it. And that's my response is absolutely no texting and driving. How we regulate it, I don't know. And when it comes to bicycle owners and riders, I still don't like the idea of bicycles on the road, even if we license them, because I just don't think there's enough. Now, if there was enough, then we could have a different discussion, because it would be worth investing in the bike lanes on highways with the amount of people wanting to use them. Right now, I just don't see enough of it. 316-721-8255. 20 minutes past the hour. We'll shift gears a little bit when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker KQAM.
Talking about. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. 24 minutes past the hour. Great to have you along today. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. Let's go right to the phones. Get your thoughts on what's happening in the world today. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, it's Deacon again.
What's going on?
You know how I said I rarely disagree with you?
Okay.
You did it twice in the last segment.
Oh, fantastic. There we go. All right.
Oh, yeah. First one, you are all gung-ho about, personal responsibility and personal freedom. And, if you don't want to wear a seatbelt, you don't want to wear a helmet. And I'm with you 100% on that.
Sure.
When I had my motorcycle, I didn't even own a helmet.
Sure.
But that was my call. If I wrecked and scrambled my brains, it was my insurance to cover it, not somebody else's.
Right.
But I got to call you out as a little bit of a hypocrite on this one.
Okay.
Because you're like, personal freedom, personal responsibility, personal liberty. Keep drugs illegal because I don't want you to put something in your body.
Well, okay, so you're making the case of, the drugs. But drugs, here's the thing. Drugs affect other people than just the person doing the drug, does it not?
So does riding a motorcycle without a helmet if you wreck, or driving a car without a seatbelt if you fly through the windshield.
How does that affect anybody else but you, though? I mean, if you get in the accident and
if you don't have good enough insurance, I got to pay your medical bills. If you scramble your eggs, then your family suffers because you're an idiot.
Well, sure. Sure. And again, that goes to that person. And look, and all of it comes down to whether it's the drugs, whether it's the driving without the seatbelt or the helmet, whether it is whether it's the texting and driving. All of it comes down to personal responsibility. No, you shouldn't be texting and driving. As I mentioned, should there be a rule on that? Yeah, I think there should, because that one, you're kind of causing the issue potentially, so there should be some type of how you enforce it. I don't know, but that comes down to personal responsibility. Riding the motorcycle without the helmet, that's a personal responsibility. Doing the drugs or not doing the drugs, that's a personal responsibility. Look, when I take the drug stance, though, I don't look at it from necessarily the personal or the do whatever you want to do factor of that. I get that. And again, I don't care. I don't care what people do in their basement or in their home. It really does not matter to me. And I've never seen law enforcement go and knock on the door and see what you're doing in your basement to want to attack you on that. The stance that I take with the drugs is that economically and socially in the community, it has the negative impact for the entire community. When I came from Colorado and I saw the drug legalization there. The market is completely inflated to the point to where no one can live there anymore. You have 10,000 people a month moving to the state of Colorado to try and be a part of that industry. The homeless population in Denver has tripled. No one can survive living there anymore because it's $1,500 a month for rent for a 300 square foot apartment. I mean, it's inflated things to the point to where it's economically unfeasible. Not to mention that they've destroyed a lot of the housing developments and a lot of the property values by turning homes into nurseries. And I look at it at the standpoint of the economically and socially, it just wasn't a benefit to the community. If you do drugs in your basement, I don't really give a rip.
Oh yeah, and I don't blame drugs for that. I blame a really bad rollout of a good idea.
And that could potentially be it. I mean, again, I've said many times before, too, that when it comes to especially like the marijuana issue, whether recreational or medical, I'm open to the idea of that stuff, but I've yet to see it actually implemented the proper way. And until it is, then I'm not going to be in support of it. And we need to either do all of it without regulation and let people just kind of do what they want to, as you mentioned, or we don't do it at all. But trying to find that happy medium between and regulating some and trying to enforce this a little bit and trying to, by putting all these pieces of red tape, it's not done properly. So I'm okay with it. It's just got to be done the right way, and I have not seen that done yet.
Well, see, my idea is, Philip Morris and the rest of the tobacco industry, they have to get certain licenses to make their product. I think what they need to do is have companies that, grow and market the marijuana, or whatever as, okay, this is a regulated product, as in you have to be a certain age to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be, any real medical information, like, smoking cigarettes causes cancer.
Sure.
Any real medical information should be on the packaging. And you should have to be 18 to buy it because, hey,
right.
We don't consider you an adult and able to make your own decisions until you're 18. You're not an adult.
Sure.
So, like I said, bad rollout of a good idea.
Yeah.
Second one, I'm going to jump real quick.
You got 20 seconds. I tell you what, hold on the line. We'll get to you when we come back after the break here with that other one. People disagree with me. I like it. That's all right. Let's do that when we come back here. Get your thoughts on it. Again, you're right. It comes back down to the personal responsibility for everybody with all of these issues. Which is unfortunate because nowadays we have very little personal responsibility or people taking responsibility of their actions because they're looking for that safety net and that handout. Got to take a bottom of the hour break. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
It's time for some common sense, sanity, and reason.
You can't handle the truth.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, good morning to you. Making it happen today on a Thursday. The pre-Friday celebration rolls right along. 36 minutes past the hour. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you're going to join in, coming up in about a half hour, Hilary Schardon is going to join us. Summer learning loss. Your children, are they losing what they learned last year in school over the summer break? And what parents can do to try and curb that from happening and what we can do to move forward from here on out in our educational system. Well, speaking of, I do want to touch on some of the educational stuff today as it's been back in the news with our gubernatorial debates, along with a statement from some of the departments and agencies in the state endorsing the inflation argument, saying that we should increase our educational funding by inflation every single year. But let's get back to the phones here. We got some lines lighting up. Deacon still on with us here. Had another saying that disagreeing with me today, which, Deacon, it doesn't happen very often. I must be off my game today. I don't know.
It's one of those things that just, I heard that if two people agree on absolutely everything, one of them is irrelevant. So, I'm glad neither one of us are irrelevant.
There we go. I like that idea. So, all right. So you disagreed with me when it comes to the hypocrisy, quote unquote, between, the personal responsibility and then the stance that I take when it comes to drugs. What was the other one that you disagreed with me on?
Riding a bicycle on the street.
Okay.
You want them on the sidewalk. I want them on the street. Because you get little old ladies with walkers and women pushing baby carriages on the sidewalk, and then, if they're riding through downtown, somebody opens up a door to a shop, next thing you know, they're kissing the front end of a bicycle.
Well, again, though, the bike is able to maneuver, is able to stop, and is able to do what they need to do on the sidewalk a lot easier than a car is when there's bicyclists on there. I mean, if you're going to ride on the road, you have to be up to the speed. You have to be up to the efficiency. You have to be able to handle whatever comes on the road. I don't like the fact that we have a bicycle going 2 miles an hour with his little bell there while you have a line of 4 cars lining up behind him because they can't pass him because of traffic going the other way, and it just slows everything, backs everything up. I don't like that. You need to be, if you're going to ride on the road, you need to have a motor of some sort. I think they need to be riding on the sidewalk.
Well, they are classified as vehicles, and you know what? If somebody's riding on the street and cars can't get around them, they need to realize that they're causing a backup, slide over some more, and get the cars past them. That's called road etiquette. This is going to be funny. When I was coming out here from North Carolina, I drove a 1974 Jeep with a 4-cylinder motor pulling a U-Haul trailer.
That's fantastic.
When I was going up the mountains, I was doing 20 miles an hour, and that engine was screaming.
Oh, sure.
I got over, and 2-lane road with the emergency strip on the side. I'm in the emergency strip with my flashers on, going up the road, so that way cars could go around me.
Sure.
It's just called, it's called etiquette. People need to learn that they're not the only person in the world. The world does not revolve around you. There's a bunch of people around. Be observant, pay attention, and don't be a jerk.
Well, that's true, and I would have a little less of a problem with that if people did respect that for the most part. And I haven't seen a whole lot of bikers around here, I guess, per se, especially like downtown area. But I really don't like the fact too. I mean, all right, let me ask you this: then, if you do support the bikes riding on the roadway, should we be investing in the money to make the bike lanes on the road?
I'm all for it. What do they call that? A diamond lane, where bicycle path, whatever.
Right.
There's a lot of bicycle paths going in, and if that would help with safety, then I'm all about it. Hey, make my tax dollars, they go to help support the road project. So same for the guys that ride the bicycles. Make it where everybody is a little bit more convenient and a little bit more safe.
Well,
we can't regulate safety, but we can regulate more safety.
Well, that we can. All right, Deacon, I appreciate it, my friend. I don't know. Maybe it's just my personal beef. It's my personal little issue. It's my personal little annoyance because, get the heck out of the way. You're a bicycle. You should be on the sidewalk and let the car actually take care of the business. Let the big boys take care of the business when it comes to the actually driving on the road. I don't know. It's my personal annoyance. Maybe I'm in the minority here. It seems like I have been every time I brought it up sporadically over the last few years. But I appreciate that very much, Deacon. Let's go back to the phones here. Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen.
Helen, how are you?
I'm doing just great.
Good.
And by the grace of God, of course.
There you go.
And hopefully you are too.
Absolutely.
Well, I totally agree with you that these bicyclists, we live out here in the country, and we're driving down the road. It's a 55 mile per hour road.
Sure.
And then we have these bicyclists, that just come out here and they think that, oh my gosh, it's like a 2-lane.
Sure.
2-lane road.
Now, and even the countryside is a little odd because, you're driving through the rural community and, you have the big tractors that are slowing things down and they'll be off to kind of halfway off the road a little bit and you'll be able to pass them. But again, that is a large piece of machinery and they have a motor and you go about your business that way. Someone just wanting to do it just for the sake of and they're riding on the road with a bicycle, especially when they're trying to ride in the rural communities because, it may be the speed limits like that and you're trying to cruise and, they're on the side and usually they're good in the countryside to a degree off to the curb or something, but with cars flying past you at 55, 60 miles an hour, that's a dangerous situation to be in, and I don't know, I'm just not a fan of it.
No, when I was a kid, when I grew up, I was a kid, we rode our bicycles on the sidewalks. Mm-hmm. We didn't dare, common sense says you don't dare ride your bicycle on the street,
on the roads. I don't know. We've turned it into them almost being the priority to some degree when it comes to who's able to ride on there. Helen, I appreciate that very much. Let's take another phone call here. Get your thoughts. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the bicycle thing, but again, if your thoughts, if you want to spend the money on the bike lanes or if that should be, I don't know. It's a personal issue for me. That's just my stance on it. Let's go back to the phones here. The phones are lighting up with this. Line number 3, let's go to it. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, Andy, this is Pam.
Good morning, Pam. How are you today?
Well, I've been out getting new parts, and finally I'm back a little bit, but I'm going next week to get more new parts.
Oh, that's a fun time. Just staying busy, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's been a while since we've chatted.
Yes, it has been. I've been trying to recover, and I thought, boy, I better get in on this bicycle thing before I go in again.
Let's see, there we go. So you going and getting parts and doing the traveling back and forth. I mean, isn't it an annoyance to you to have a bike right in your lane?
Well, I've been in the hospital, so.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Driving. But when I was a kid, we grew up. The bicycles were a conveyance, just like a car. You rode them on the road. You followed all the rules of the road. You bought a tag for your bicycle.
Okay.
You do not go on the sidewalk. Sidewalks were pedestrians only.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were on the sidewalk on a bicycle, you would get a ticket. And that was here in Kansas.
Sure.
And I am one of those little old ladies with a walker on a sidewalk. And bicyclists are extremely rude, but they are on the road, too.
Sure.
And I also live in the country, and they will they come out here and they do some kind of little races or something.
Sure.
And they will line up across the road, and they will not move for a car.
Sure.
You know, and I'm sorry, but we're the one with the tags on our vehicles. And we're the ones that paid for all the roads, you know.
So would you like going back to having people register their bikes and actually having to pay, let your car get a license for their bicycle and put a little license plate on the back?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And when you're at a stop sign on a bicycle, you must stop. If you're at a red light, that doesn't mean you get to go through the cars and run the light.
Mm.
You know, you use turn signals.
Sure.
You know, you can do that with your arms. It is absolutely possible.
Sure. That is true. That is true.
So, but, you know, they used to give tickets for all this.
Sure. No, right. And I think those laws are still there, which is why most individuals that I've seen riding bikes ride the bike on the road, because I think there still are the rules and the laws to where they cannot ride them on the sidewalk. I don't know. I mean, if I understand that's the way it's been. I just it just like you mentioned with their mentality, sometimes it is an obstruction of traffic, or at least it's annoyance to traffic, and I don't like it. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and it is. It really is because they're not being taught. You must obey the rules of the road, and the police used to come to the school, and it's like you don't block the traffic of the cars have precedent.
Sure.
Always.
Sure.
You know, but we're wanting to spend how many millions to make all these really nice bicycle paths when you can't hardly drive your car on these stinking roads.
Right. I mean, the city again last year or 2 years ago was looking at $300,000 to $350,000 to put more bike lanes into downtown. I have yet to see more than maybe one or two people use the bike lanes that are already there. Why would we want to sink more money into something like that?
Yeah, because they're on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
because nobody told them not to ride there.
Exactly.
And, I mean, can you not observe there's a bike lane?
It's tough. I mean, look, a car trying to get over, trying to take a right turn, you cross the bike lane, you're trying to look for the car, not only the cars, but then for the bicyclists, and it just causes more issues. I appreciate it, Pam. I'm glad you're feeling better, hopefully, and getting on the uptrend there.
Andy. I'm going to be down again, so you might not hear from me for a while.
Oh, well, all the best to you there, and I was going to say that you need to come out to the rally this Saturday that we're having, but you may need some little recovery time.
Yeah, I would love to, but I'm not quite there yet.
That's all right. Well, all the best to you. We're thinking and praying for you, and hope all for the speedy recovery. Pam, we appreciate it very much so. 316-721-8255. Let's take another phone. All right, I'm in the minority here. I get it. I'm in the minority here. Let's go to the phones. Get your thoughts. Line number 4. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning. This is Sean.
Sean, what's happening, sir?
Well, it's just kind of ironic here as I drive up Market Street, going north on Market Street. I crossed, I think it was Douglas back there, and there goes a bike straight down the sidewalk.
There it is.
Yeah. But my call today, though, is actually to talk to you about the problem isn't always the bikers. I'm finding that car drivers don't actually understand these lanes and how they work.
Mm-hmm.
There's one, and I think it's like at First Street in Maine, where there's, it's all painted bright green. It's got all that stuff on it. There's a sign, though, that says that it's also the turn lane for going south on Main Street.
Sure.
Well, I don't know how many times I've seen cars turn onto Main Street right in front of me from the non-turn lane.
Sure.
Because they don't understand that green lane is actually their turn lane also. And
right.
so there's a lot of problems with this bike thing in that this is not a part of our culture in Wichita at this point, of biking and whatnot. So there is going to be a huge education curve on it. And, people are going to get hurt as a result of not understanding, not because they're necessarily being irresponsible, they're being dumb, not following the rules. Well, I guess they're not following the rules, but they're not following the rules not because they're being belligerent. It's just that they don't understand the rules. And I think, I was very skeptical of it. I didn't understand why, we really needed these things.
Sure.
But after a year and a half or so, whatever it's been now, I'm seeing more and more bikes downtown Wichita using them. And, that's a good thing. That means that there are people out there maybe not driving their cars as much or maybe trying to stay healthier,
Sure.
and riding. I live in the country and live way outside of Wichita, so it's not something I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And also, living out in the country, I can tell you, every Saturday morning, your I wouldn't call them competitive bike riders, but your weekend guys that go out there to get their exercise in groups and whatnot, they come up and down our road. And I'll tell you, drivers, be courteous to those guys. There's not much shoulder on those 2-lane roads.
Sure.
And I turn my turn signal on probably 100 yards before I come up on them, and I go way into the other lane, and you wouldn't believe how many people wave to you because they recognize that you see them.
Right.
Because we are not at risk of injury if we hit a bike.
Sure.
But a biker is in risk of death. And so we as drivers, need to understand that we are driving a missile down the road that can injure or kill another person. And keep that in mind as we make our decisions as we drive down the road. Recognize those guys. I don't ride a bike. I own one, but I haven't looked at it in a long time. So, but at the same time, I do that with motorcyclists. I do that with bikers.
Sure.
Recognize that they are the ones in danger. It's up to us to keep them alive also.
It's a great point. I absolutely agree with that, Sean. I appreciate that very much. And you bring up a really good point as well when it comes to the education of this. You're right. It's not necessarily in our culture here in Kansas or Wichita as well to be as accepted on that. I mean, I came from Colorado Springs where I saw it everywhere, and that's kind of the annoyance that I came from. It was because it was everywhere. So maybe I came in with a little bit of bias on that as well. So, but you're right. I mean, there is a lack of education. Have you seen some of the other countries, by the way, when they take their driving test in order for them to get a driver's license compared to what we do here? No wonder why we have so many crazy drivers out on the road. So you're right. I mean, it goes both ways. And I will be the very first one to admit that I have extremely short tempers and a short fuse on the road. I will be the very first one to. If you're not going 3 or 4 above the speed limit, then you're going too slow. And if you upset me, then I don't know. I have a very short temper. I'm a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I have the shortest temper on the road. Don't try and, mess with me when I'm on the road. I'm just an angry jerk on the road, and I will be the first to admit it. So maybe it's coming from part of that as well. I don't know, but I don't know. I just don't like the bike right there. It's because, as you mentioned, we are the missile, the torpedo that's on the road, and we wouldn't be the ones getting hurt. They are, which in my opinion would be, well, then if that's the case, then make sure you're not going to be anywhere near me because, you don't want to get hurt sort of thing. That's my take on it. I know that's a jerky take to take, and I know that I'm totally in the wrong probably this or in the minority, but that's my own personal bias. Got some more calls on the line. Stay here. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. Got to take a break. This is the Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
right, I'm not totally on my own on this, apparently. It's some social media coming in. I agree with you, Andy. No bikes on the road. They need to stay in their own lane, stay off to the white, past the white line on the other side, stay on the sidewalk if they can, get them off the road. All right, so I'm not totally alone here. Listener on Facebook Live, don't take out any more driving lanes for the new bike lanes, save for bikes even more congested. That is true. You ever see the bike lanes, see the roadway for the cars? It's a little more narrow, which again, I think goes into the thing of we need to start downsizing our vehicles and that whole mentality on that. I mean, that takes it to a whole nother level. Oh yeah, you got to downsize your vehicle because you got to fit in the little lane here. Your big old truck can't fit in that stuff because we need the room for the car or for the bikes. Yeah. Let's sneak in another phone call here. We got about a minute and a half until the top of the hour. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, this is Helen.
Helen, go for it.
I'm calling back again.
Okay, you got about a minute.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. You got a minute. What's on your mind?
Okay. We talking about the farmers and stuff. We've been through all of this. We're farmers, and you went through the time of Carter putting grain embargoes upon us.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? Oh, I don't know if you know that or not,
Sure.
but we went through it.
Yep.
So, in Ecclesiastes, chapter 5, verse 3 or 4, or 9, okay. Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all, and the king himself is served by the field. So even our political, our rulers or leaders, they are dependent on where are they going to get their food? But from the farmers.
Sure.
Where are they going to get their
we got to take care of the farmers. I mean, that's really what we have to do. You're right. If we don't have the farmers, we don't have food. And if we don't have food, then we're going to be in a world of hurt because I'm sure that not too many people have personal gardens and farms in their backyard. Helen, I appreciate it very much. So when we come back, we're going to talk with Hilary Schardon, talking about loss of education during the summertime when the kids aren't in school. We'll touch on that and a lot more. More of your phone calls when we come back as well. Hour number 3, The Voice of Reason, coming up. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
If you're going to run as a Republican, then you need to uphold Republican values. Less government, limited taxes, less regulation, understanding the duties of the government. These are things that are the platform of the Republican Party. They've been the platform of the Republican Party for a really long time, and now Republican legislators need to uphold that, respect it, and fight for it, rather than saying they will when they run for office and then turning around and doing something different.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Welcome aboard on Facebook Live as well, facebook.com/1480 KQAM. Happy Thursday morning. It's a pre-Friday celebration. Let's enjoy. Let's have a little fun. I have officially begun to blast out the press release for the rally coming up on Saturday to all the local media. So they should have that here probably within the hour each break. I'm sending out a little bit. I actually sent it out to some national talk show hosts that we syndicate with as well and we're affiliates of, and they enjoyed that, so they may bring it up as well. Maybe get some support from that front. More information to come from that in just a little bit. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. We have a lot to get to. We still haven't gotten to the GOP gubernatorial debate that was a couple nights ago and the educational debate. And I want to shift gears to that a little bit because the education is such a huge issue in the state of Kansas when it comes to the percentage of funding from our state government to public education and the continuous litigation that's going on and how much money we've sunk into that. And with all this debate going on, if you remember what happened last year. Last year in our public, at least in the Wichita School District here, they made the decision, we're short on funds. You've got more money than you ever had before from the state, but I digress. That's another issue. We're running out of funds. What do we got to do? We got to consolidate the school year. And they voted and they passed it to where they shortened the school year by 2 weeks while they extended the class day by 30 minutes. And, of course, we talked about that at that time and how that's not beneficial to children. At some point, you just kind of hit your wall to where you can't absorb any more information. And do you really think an additional 30 minutes at the end of the school day is going to be beneficial for the child to continue to learn, then go to an extracurricular activity, then go home and do your homework, and then do it all over again? Not to mention the time that during the summer, you're having more time off for you to lose. And I've been in favor, honestly, of the mentality that we make it an all year long school cycle with like a few 3-week vacation breaks in between there. So we still get the time off, but at the same time, we're not off for 2-3 months at a time, and therefore we don't come back starting all over again. To talk about some of that and more, because we are in the middle of summertime right now, how many of your children, if you have children, grandchildren, how many of you are starting to notice that maybe the kids they're not paying attention to it. They're not focusing on it. They're doing their summertime shenanigans. They're having a good time, and they're going to go back to school again and potentially have to take another step or two back in order to be able to progress a little bit. I'm really excited to have on the show. She's a VP of K-12 Product Strategy for Canvas by Instructure. It's Hilary Schardon on the line with us. Hilary, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks so much, Andy.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on the show. With that introduction, I mean, as I mentioned, I've been in kind of the favor of trying to make an all-year school plan with a few, 2 or 3 week vacations throughout the year in order to lighten up the mood a little bit. But from your studying, from your viewing this, from kind of you focusing on this issue, how much do the kids potentially lose during the summer when they're off for 2-3 months at a time from what they were taught from the school year prior?
Well, the answer is not awesome. It depends. We have some old research that says that students can lose as much as 25 or 30% of what they learned during the school year. But there's some newer research that says it depends on what subject you're talking about and what grade level it is. We do know that summer flight is real, and that there are lots of things that parents can do to help remediate.
Mm-hmm. When we go into the summertime, and I know the kids are all giddy about it, they're excited about summer, they're excited about baseball, they're excited about going on vacation, doing their thing. I'm sure, as you mentioned, depending on the age and the year that they're in and what topics they are, is there a topic which they forget about most or more so than some of the other issues or topics that they learned?
I think for the younger kids, what we care about more is backsliding and reading. When you're in kindergarten through about 3rd grade, you're really learning how to read, and that sets you up to for the rest of your school life, right? Until you get to be a senior or a college student. You're reading to learn after that. So it's really important to maintain those basic reading skills when you're young, and I think that's what teachers probably care about most.
Sure. No, absolutely. I brought up the issue that we had last year, again, with the Wichita School District, to where when they were debating their funding debate, which, I'll get into at a later time, but with their funding debate, they ended up shortening the school year by 2 weeks and extending it by 30 minutes. Have you heard of another example of another school doing that somewhere in the country? And was it beneficial? Did it hurt them or harm them? And does that extra 30 minutes in the school day actually benefit the children? Or is it just, they've hit their wall for the day and they can't absorb any more information?
That's actually something that I probably can't offer an opinion on without a little more research into what Wichita is doing specifically. Here's what I know. I know that the very best countries in the world with the best students and the best learning actually have shorter school years. They have long summers, they have short school days, but they don't spend as much time in the classroom typically as we do here in the U.S., and they have better results. Part of the reason for that is that the students there have more breaks. If you can get up and play every hour, you return to learning much better. Another reason for that is how they value teaching in other countries. They have only their best and brightest being teachers. And so that does a lot also.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. What can we do as parents during the summertime, since we do have that long extended time off and they're not focusing necessarily on their schoolwork, as parents and in the home life? Because, I mean, it really starts at home, even during the school year, coming home, doing the homework, being engaged with your child as they're doing the homework and trying to help them understand it. Because for myself, I've always been one to where I can't just read it and be like, okay, and just go through it and then just move on, but to actually deeply understand it so I know exactly what I'm doing. And sometimes that parental help in the evening to be able to make that a little more relatable is necessary. Is that necessary during the summertime as too when they're not in school?
Absolutely. You should, as a parent, model learning during the summer. Learning is dirty and messy, and it happens all your whole life. We know that jobs that our kids will have in the future are going to require a lot different skills than what we got in schools when we were growing up. It's going to be more like problem solving and being able to learn by yourself. So parents, if we can all model that good lifelong learning behavior, that's going to do a wonder for our kids when they grow up and have to go get jobs themselves.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. Some examples of that maybe would be, I mean, if they maybe have a summertime job, or as you mentioned, some of the problem solving, they're expanding the house, working on the house, making them work with their hands, making them think and be engaged. I mean, even though it's not sitting down reading the book per se, just doing that type of activity, I mean, is that beneficial for them as they move along?
Oh, absolutely. You can find ways to learn in everything that you're doing in the summer. We take lots of vacations. You can find math with looking at maps and how many miles is it to where we get to go. You can find math in video games. The way that a shape changes in a video game is algebra and geometry and trigonometry and all kinds of good stuff. When you're talking to your kids, have them read something out loud to you, whether it's a road sign while you're driving to the park or it's the back of the cereal box. Modeling good learning behavior, so you reading yourself, and letting kids explore whatever it is that they're interested in the summer is going to be great learning for them.
Sure, absolutely. We're talking with Hilary Schardon. Talk about Canvas by Instructure. What is the organization? What do you guys do?
So we make some software, and it's software that helps schools put their courses online. So for younger kids, that would be a way for teachers to send homework home and make announcements to parents. And for older kids, it's going to be turning in their homework and consuming content online. We're used in lots and lots of K-12 schools and higher ed across the country.
Very good. Very good. Well, and some of that, I mean, we have, I've noticed that a lot of the schools even the kids at home are going to a lot of those online types of programs when it comes to the education, which I've been hearing that, and I don't know if this is true or not, maybe you can enlighten me on this one, but some of the other nations, I mean, they're teaching young kids how to build apps on certain programs and how to actually do that. We're not, as far as I am aware of, we're not doing that in the U.S. when it comes to our education. Are we behind when it comes to some of the technology and technological education in the U.S. compared to some of the other parts of the world?
Oh, I don't know if I would agree that we aren't doing that. I see lots of schools using coding games and coding curriculum offered by various different places to teach even the youngest kids in elementary school basics of coding, which is important. Not that everybody needs to learn to code, but it's important to understand how this technology that we're going to use to run various parts of our lives works when we're grown up.
Sure. Boy, I tell you, the times have definitely changed, because when I was at school, they were just starting the whole computer thing, and coding would have been completely out of my realm. Hilary Schardon, if people want to get involved or at least reach out to you guys, learn more about what you do, how can people reach you?
You can find us on the internet at canvaslms.com.
Very good. Hilary, I appreciate you coming on the show. We'd love to get you back on at a later time.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely appreciate that. That's Hilary Schardon right there with Canvas by Instructure. We'll open up the lines to you. We'll talk about some of the educational issues in the state of Kansas when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason on a Thursday. Stay right here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Boy, I don't know about that. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. The whole, I mean, I guess it's good to some degree, but, learning the coding at a young age in, like, elementary school, that's a good thing, I guess. At the same time, I've said it before, I'm not getting my daughter a cell phone nor an iPad or anything of that sort until she gets into high school. That's just not going to happen. So I guess if they are going to, then it's going to be at school. Or if they provide it, then I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that. Again, me probably being in the minority here and being old school and traditional and just not liking. I don't like change. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Politicians, as you know, are a delight. And yesterday there was a debate by Democrats for the gubernatorial race on TV, and they ended up, of course, this is the way it always works. Republicans and Democrats, by the way, is that they rally to their base and go as far as they can to the base and far to the fringe as they can during the primary, and then they turn around and try to become as moderate as they can during the general in order to appeal to moderates, independents, people on the other side of the aisle, the few that they may be able to pick up because they don't like their candidate, and that's just the way it kind of works. So the Democrats last night going as far as they can on many of the issues, and one of the very first issues that came up, of course, was abortion. Again, and I'm going to mention this at the rally on Saturday, but can we please expose a little bit of the hypocrisy here? Just a little bit of the fact that they're trying to abolish ICE because they don't want the separation of children from their families because it's all about the children, while at the same time they're complaining. I don't hear any complaining of that degree, at least, of children missing out of the foster care program in the state of Kansas, or when we start hearing the people complain to Donald Trump about nominating a Supreme Court justice that may or may not overturn Roe v. Wade and actually protect the life of a child. Doesn't make any sense to me. And then you're going to try and say, you have no morals if you want the separation of the children and their families. Coming from the person that's advocating for something like abortion. I don't get that. To me, that's apparently you were only caring for one child while not caring for another, and to me that's hypocritical. But the Democrats last night in the debate ended up talking about abortion. Josh Schwady, one of the leaders in the gubernatorial race for the Democrats, you can never make abortion illegal. You can only make access to be safe you can only make access to safe abortion illegal. Not sure what that means. Trust women to make their own decisions. Well, after that, Laura Kelly, one of the other leaders in the race, I think it's important not to mislead voters on where we stand on the certain issues, calling out, of course, Josh Schwady for voting, according to her, 11 times for the law to restrict abortion as a legislator, including 4 attempts at overriding a Democratic governor's veto on the issue. And Josh Schwady is a little bit more of a moderate, which could help the Democrats, which could hurt the Democrats. I'm not quite sure what direction they're going to be going, but nonetheless, kind of the sparring match when it comes to abortion. And, of course, trying to play to the base to where they want to make it accessible. They want to make it okay. They want to loosen up some of the laws here in the state of Kansas and doing whatever they have to do to make that happen. I don't think that's going to play well in the state, but that's the mentality, that's the momentum, that's what they have to go with as a base of the Democratic Party. And right now, the fringe of the Democratic Party are running and controlling the party, and therefore they're trying to play to that. They may change their tone when it comes to the general election. I don't know. But as of right now, that's where it's at. Then, of course, Carl Brewer, former Wichita mayor. I think it's important not to mislead the voters on the issue. I don't believe that any man should have the right to tell a woman what she should or shouldn't do with her body. No one's telling the individuals who are male this sort of thing. I don't know if you're aware or not, but males don't have this issue, and we don't have to worry about that. As for telling women what to do with their bodies, it's not necessarily in this. I know this is a debate. We're not going to win over anybody by making this because we've gone round and round and round many times before. But from my opinion, my perspective on this is that we're not telling women what to do with their bodies. If that was the case, we would tell them not to even try and conceive in the first place. And that's not what's happening here. What we are saying, though, is that once this does potentially happen, then in my opinion, then it's not just your body anymore. So therefore, there's another vote in the say here. And you're taking that vote away. You're taking that voice away in some way, shape, or form. I know it's not going to win anybody over, but I mean, that's the sense of it. And that's the debate that we go in the hamster wheel all over the place with. But I'm not sure, Carl Brewer, if you're aware or not, but men are a little bit different than women in that sense. So I'm just saying, I don't know. Now, when it comes to the guns, of course, they want to repeal the carry on campus. They want to repeal the constitutional carry. They don't like the fact that we're allowing to have firearms for many individuals and even the larger firearms. Senator Kelly not only voted for that legislation, she co-sponsored it, according to Swati, when it comes to the laws, the reasonable laws requiring permits, training to carry a weapon. That's 2 years after Sandy Hook's school shooting. It became very clear that we went too far on gun rights and wants to start reining them in. Too far. Just imagine for a second that thought. We went too far on gun rights. Second Amendment, right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. End of story. And then they granted you that permission. They granted you, oh, thank you, dear lords, granted us that permission to carry that firearm. That's the thought that runs through their mind, that they should control it and that they could take it away just like that. They had that authority to take it away just like that, instead of saying, yeah, no, you're not even supposed to be touching it. And you as the elected official should be grateful that we have, or that we're all armed and that nothing's going to happen to our state or to ourselves. Not the fact that we as the people, the peasants, oh dear peasant we are, should be grateful for you to grant us this great idea and this opportunity to carry this firearm. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I am forever indebted into your deeds. The control that they have is quite fun to watch, and what they think that they have and what they actually have are two very different things. That was the Democratic debate last night. You really didn't miss much other than the fact that you know what progressives say and how far on the fringe that they try to go with their arguments. Got some calls on the line. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. Wrapping up the show today. This is The Voice of Reason.
Breakfast at Tiffany's, she said, I think I remember the film, and as I recall.
When it takes two to read the news,
I'm trying to warn everybody and nobody takes me cereal.
You're in the wrong place. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, 1480 AM and 102.5 FM, KQAM.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, unveiling the layers of the onion on a daily basis, understanding that politics is not just a surface value, a hashtag, a bumper sticker argument, but it's actually a little bit deeper than that. And we try and find out how deep the rabbit hole actually goes. Remember The Matrix? You can take the blue pill or the red pill. Well, my friends, we are the red pill, and we jump right into the rabbit hole and see exactly how far that goes. Welcome back in. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Let's go ahead. It's open lines to you, by the way, for the last half hour of the program. Let's go to the phones. Line number one. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen again.
Helen, what's going on?
Sorry to pester you.
Go quick. That's all right. We got some other calls I want to get to, too, so go fast.
Okay. Well, it's disgusting that our generation, our people, or whatever government is taking away the rights of the fathers of these children. They talk like, they act like, oh, well, only the woman has the right to choose life or death for their baby. Well, no, the fathers also have equal rights.
Mm-hmm.
To, whether they want the child to live or not. Everybody should always choose to, the Constitution says we have a right to life. Well, so every child has a right to life. And the father has a right to say, hey, I want this child to be born.
Right. No, you're right. And that's a really great point, Helen. I appreciate it. There is the argument that just because, look, it takes two to tango. And it takes two to make the baby, and therefore the two to have the equal say in that decision, hopefully that they both actually want to have that equal say sort of thing. And the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and property, whatever argument, whatever part of the Constitution or historical documents that you want to look at in reference to what we stand for as a nation, life, liberty, and property, they try and say that the liberty part gives them the right to do so, but you don't have liberty if you don't have life, and therefore the life comes and triumphs over the liberty, and therefore you got to protect that. And again, now bringing up this issue, and I know that I don't talk about this issue too terribly much because it doesn't do any good. I mean, we know our facts, and we argue it, and we fight for it, and we try to defend it, but the ones that on the other side, they don't see that, and they don't care. They don't use the religious argument. They don't see the constitutional argument. They don't see the life argument. They live in their own fantasy world to where they set the arbitrary line for themselves, and they feel that everybody else needs to abide by it. So, I mean, watching the Democrats debate at a debate on TV talking about the abortion issues and trying to go as far as they can to show that they're all for it, it is nothing more than the political BS, per se, if you want to put it that way, for them to try and play to their base. And that's it. And then as soon as whoever gets the general election nomination, they go into the general election and start campaigning, then they're going to say that they're for the people and that they're going to be open and welcoming to everybody, and they're going to try and be accepted because they have to. We're a predominantly Republican state with Kansas. There are 10 times more Republicans than there are Democrats. It's just whether the turnout's going to be for the Republicans or whether they just don't show up. That's the only reason that a Democrat wins a seat in the state of Kansas, if Republicans do not show up. And there are many moderate Republicans in the state of Kansas, realistically. And if a Democrat's going to win, then they're going to have to change their tone going into a general election race, and they're going to have to pander to many of the moderate Republicans, and they're going to have to change their tone, especially on abortion and on Second Amendment issues. That's just a matter of fact. Appreciate the call. Let's go back to the phones here. Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
John the Libertarian.
John the Libertarian. What's happening, brother?
Well, not a whole lot. I could go on all day, I think, with you on abortion. So I was going to touch on a lighter subject that you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Those bikes on the street, man.
Yes.
I liken it to smoking cigarettes and of course legalizing pot, because I can liken everything to legalizing pot. But just because it's legal doesn't make it a good idea. And it is legal to ride your bike in general traffic in Wichita, but it's also legal to ride on the sidewalk. So if one's safer, why wouldn't you do that?
Sure.
I share a really, really quick story. A couple of years ago, I live on one of those bike paths in Wichita.
Okay.
And I see very few, but I did see an entire group riding by one day, and there's a stop sign at the end of my street, and they just blew right past it. Well, there just happened to be a cop sitting there, and he pulled all 3 of them over, 3 or 4 of them.
Good.
Pulled them all over and gave them tickets for going through that stop sign, because they are supposed to be beholden to the same traffic laws that regular people riding their cars are.
Sure. No, that's very true.
And
I'm
sorry, the worst part about riding their bikes in the morning is how are they supposed to listen to your show?
See, that is probably the best argument that I've heard so far. Thank you. I mean, that's exactly it. If they're riding their bikes, how are they able to listen to their morning information and their morning talk show to get them going for the day? Because, I mean, unless they have their headphones in listening on a little radio, which is cool, but at the same time, then how are you supposed to listen to cars zooming by you riding a bicycle? So you kind of can't do both of them and be a successful person riding your bike in the morning.
Fact.
That's what I do. I love it. John the Libertarian, my friend, I appreciate that very much. See, I mean, there are dangers to riding the bike on the road. And, I mean, yeah, obviously you have to follow the same rules, and some do, some don't. And there are, I don't know, there's a lot of dangers that go to it. And if you have that choice to ride on the sidewalk or ride on the road, then I would strongly urge to ride on the sidewalk because it is less dangerous. You are the top dog then, and it's your responsibility then to look out for the pedestrians walking on the sidewalk, and you don't have to worry about vehicles. I'm telling you, the people in the vehicles, and come on, even if you don't want to admit it, deep down that if you're stuck behind a bicycle, then that little fire starts burning. That little burst is about ready to build up, and you just feel the frustration building up in you because you're stuck behind a bicycle. I know you feel it. I know you do. Don't try to deny it. You can admit it. It's okay. You're with family here, and it's just something that builds up and boils up, and just get out of the way. Yeah, sometimes, and then you start talking about the expansion of the road in order to build the bike path on the side, and you see the narrowness of the road a little bit more and more and more to where it's very tight. I mean, you drive a truck. I mean, right now I'm driving. My wife and I, we have an F-150. We have a truck. And you try and go on some of those roads, and you are literally, your rear view mirrors are sticking outside of the white line because the road is so narrow. Oh, you got to get a small car. Really? I like my truck. A lot of people like their trucks. Have a farmer, have a rancher come out in their truck and try and drive downtown and try and maneuver your way on a one-way road with the bike lane right next to you. It doesn't work very efficiently, does it? It gets narrow and narrow and narrow, and it's very tight. And then you're still trying to run into the bicyclists or trying not to as they're riding on the bike lane and you're driving in the car lane, and then it's really tight and you're trying to turn. It's just a madhouse. Got to get the small cars right, trying to downsize us. Society, you want to go into the conspiracy theory? Let's put on the tinfoil hat for a second. Conspiracy theorists here that they're trying to make us downsize our vehicles for environmental protection in order for us to be able to fit into the road lanes when you have a bike lane next to it. See, so you're either riding the bike or you're driving a little tiny car, and now you have less of the CO2 out into the atmosphere and actually contributing to global warming. See, it all makes sense now. That's right. All makes sense now. 316-721-8255. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Ray.
Ray, good morning, sir. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. This bicycle issue's always bothered me. They, when you're going down Woodlawn or Oliver or out on the west side, and traffic's kind of busy, and there's a bicycle in the road.
Sure.
Those clowns could go over one block, be riding in a safe, non-busy neighborhood, and they could go down the middle of the street and nobody would care.
Sure.
But they have to be out playing with us. And I've talked to some of these policemen about these bike lanes downtown. They hardly ever get used. Those bicyclists would rather be over there on Broadway annoying everybody.
Sure. So, I mean, the investment, which luckily I haven't heard any talks of it of late, but I know that we were a few years ago. So, I mean, you see it, I mean, the way I see it, that it's not worth an investment to expand more bike lanes in the city because they're barely even used.
No, they aren't used at all. The bicyclists don't even care about those things.
Sure. I completely agree, Ray. I appreciate that very much. Let me tell you, I mean, I came from Colorado Springs where everything was all about the natural and the healthy and everything, and I think there were more bikers because of that, bicyclists, and they were all over the place. We had the bike lanes everywhere in the city of Colorado Springs. And even with the bike lanes, there were some there, but then the roads that didn't have the bike lanes, people would still be riding their bikes, as Ray just mentioned, like that, and they would be in the middle of the street. And, I mean, come on, the light is red, you stop, the bike's in front of you, they're the first one at the intersection, the light turns green, you step on your gas and you go. They got to get up, they got to start pedaling, they got to get the motion going, and it takes you 3 times as long to get through an intersection, and now you got 20 cars backed up behind you because you're waiting on the bicyclist to get up to speed. Now, I mean, even if they use the traffic directions that they want to turn, they want to do whatever, that's fine, but again, get out of the way. Get out of the way! That's the way I feel it. Yes, my road rage does come out on occasion with that. I'm a very happy-go-lucky, lovey-dovey kind of guy, but I don't know, there's something about it that just gets under the skin. Got to take a break, 46 minutes past the hour. Wrapping up the show today, this is The Voice of Reason when we come back.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Eight minutes at the top of the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up the program today. Kind of an oddball show today. That's all right, though. I dig it. I like it. Kind of a fun one. And I appreciate all the phone calls. 316-721-8255. We got some more on the line here. We'll get to you in just a second. I do want to remind you, though, I think that our speaker list for the rally is locked in, is set, and is ready to go. I think we got the confirmation from the last little bit that we need. I think that we're all ready to go. Never done this before. It's a heck of a process, but it's a lot of fun. It's going to be so worth it. Come out this Saturday, 11 a.m., 510 North Main Street, downtown Wichita, right at the old courthouse. Now, right across the street, I've heard, and I'm going to do some research today, I've heard that on Saturday that parking garage right across the street is free. You don't have to pay for it on the weekend, so I'm going to look into that, and I'll have more information tomorrow. But that way you can park at the parking garage, come right across the street to the rally. We are, by the way, going to, I've been reached and approached by some of the different gubernatorial campaigns asking to set up tables there, and I said, sure, why not? So we may have a table set up for the Chris Kobach campaign. We may have a table set up for the Jeff Collier campaign, and may have a table set up for the Seltzer campaign. All three of them are aware of it, and they requested and asked if they could, so we'll see if they do that. But the speaker lineup for Saturday, myself, obviously, I'll be speaking there a little bit. We have State Representative John Whitmer. We have State Senator Ty Masterson. We have David Hill from the One Spark Foundation talking about working with law enforcement in the community and ways to make our community great again. I mean, the whole theme of the show, the whole theme of the rally is not only to support law enforcement, not only to support ICE, not only to support the rule of law, which is what this is all about, but because of all that, we're making America great again. And because of that, we're making Kansas great again. And because of that, we're making Wichita great again. It all starts at the local level. And when we make ourselves better, then we make everything else better as well. So right now, State Representative John Whitmer, State Senator Ty Masterson, David Hill from One Spark Foundation, along with Christopher Allen with the Bleeding Blue film on law enforcement. So those are the speakers now as well. We do have an official statement and a letter of endorsement and support from Congressman Ron Estes. We also have an official statement and a letter from Mayor Jeff Longwell. So I will be reading those throughout the rally as well. And then, of course, we'll get you all excited and pumped up, ready to go. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've been getting some ridiculously hateful, derogatory, racist, bigoted remarks of individuals wanting to shut this down and protest it on the rally pages. I've been keeping that clean because we're not about that. We're about a positive message, and if they want to bring the hate into it, then that's on them, not on us. We're not going to even acknowledge protesters there. I may wave at them and say hi sort of thing, but we're not going to confront anything. We are the positive ones. The whole reason we're doing this is to counter what happened last week and say this is the positive message. This is the positive thing. That's why we went from a counter protest, what we were thinking last week, to this. And it's truly, honestly, the grassroots movement. So come on out. It's going to be 11 o'clock. By the way, as well, not only is David Hill from One Spark Foundation going to be speaking, but I'll be talking with him today, get everything locked in. But it sounds like he will be bringing the truck and having food there provided as well as a donation and feeding everybody for free that shows up to the rally. Whether we get 20 people there and it's a close-knit family group kind of thing, or whether there's 200 people there, I'm going to be extremely thrilled and grateful for all the support that's came on from social media, from on air here, from individuals and groups that have partnered up with us. Kansas Rallies, you guys are awesome. Appreciate them partnering up to make this happen too. It's going to be a fun event on Saturday. It's going to be an hour and a half. Come out, support it, get some food, enjoy the great speakers. Chris Kobach, Secretary of State, has said that he still really, really, really wants to be there. Not quite sure. I'm not including him on the confirmed speakers, but he may still show up as a surprise that day as well. I'm blasting out all the media outlets today for the public, for the press release, and we're going to have some fun. Come on out. Let's show the positive message and show that the fringe left is not the voice that everybody needs to be hearing, because we are the silent majority. So appreciate that very much. Let's go back to the phones here, wrap up with some phone calls. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, happy Thursday.
What's going on, sir? How are you?
Well, I wanted to get it out real quick. The city, once again, is we're going to violate your rights, and if you don't like it, sue us. They've put out a letter saying that you may not put out political signs in the right-of-way, which is in violation of state and federal law. But that's okay. We can suppress your rights, and if you don't like it, sue us.
You know, there's been some talks I've been hearing from different campaigns around, not just in Wichita, but in the surrounding South Central Kansas areas, and how some of the city ordinances, and one of the little towns, I'm not going to mention which one of the town ordinances was that you're not able to put any political yard signs in right-of-ways until like 15 days before the election, or 2 weeks before the event, I think, which, again, as you mentioned, violates state law, because state law says that you can have political signs out in right-of-ways and in public areas within 45 days of an election. So, and state law obviously trumps city law. I think at some point, I don't know whether it's going to be this election or the next election, but I think at some point some of this is going to come down to some type of case, some type of debate, some type of sparring between city ordinances and cities and the state government, and which one's going to trump which.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to grin about is, hey, not Wichita, but KU and Kansas are national news thanks to Governor Collier and the Chancellor of KU.
Absolutely. Nope. That's It's a great story, and I gave huge praise to Governor Collier for being able to do what he did to make that flag go down. The flag did get removed off of KU as of last night, so we won that one because they wanted to keep it up till the end of the month.
Well, what I want to know is anybody going to get disciplined for doing that in the first place? That's a gross disrespect, and I don't know if it's a violation of law, but it's sure a violation of pride.
Flag code and symbolism and everything like that.
I think whoever put that flag up on a state flagpole in lieu of a real American flag, I think somebody needs to at least get their hands slapped
That would make sense. That would make sense. Myron, I appreciate it very much. No, I would like to see that. Now, seeing some of the comments on the media when they posted the story, it doesn't sound like too many people are really caring too much about the fact of it violated flag code. I don't know. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is the Voice of Reason. Everybody have a great Thursday. We'll be back wrapping up your week tomorrow.
Speak.